Happy Mother's Day, everybody. Are you excited? Yay! I'm excited. Today, I have two very special guests that are joining us today. My two beautiful daughters, Sheree and Chelsea. So I want you to grab you a cup of coffee. We have ours. And grab the kids because we're going to have some amazing time today. We're going to talk about motherhood and all kinds of fun stuff. So get ready. Our countdown is just about to start. So see you in just a few minutes.
Father in the orphan in me, you say I am yours. I never am alone. I never am alone. You found me. I never am alone. I never am alone. You found me, so I made up my mind. I'm never going back. I'm never
If you can, just close your eyes. We're going to keep our eyes right on Jesus right now. Jesus. We acknowledge your presence in this place right now, Jesus. Almighty One, King of all kings, we acknowledge your presence in this place tonight. Jesus, 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 Jesus. And we say that there's nothing that we want to hold back from you. Great lover, there's nothing that we want to hold back from you tonight. There's nothing that we want to hold back from you tonight, Jesus. Because you are worthy of it all. You're worthy of it all, Jesus. Beautiful lover, beautiful King, beautiful friend. You are worthy of it all. And we want to lay it all down tonight again at your feet. We want to lay it all down at your feet tonight, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And we say that what you did on that cross was enough. What you paid on that cross was enough. We thank you for the finished work of the cross tonight, Jesus. We thank you for the finished work of the cross tonight, Jesus. And we say it's enough. It was enough. It was enough. It was enough. It was enough. And it paid the highest price. And so we want to give you all of our praise, Jesus. We don't want to hold one little thing back, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. It's just all about him. It's all about him, and we're going to sing it again. And if you can stand to your feet, if you can lift your hands and give him worship, because he's so worthy. He's so worthy in his presence. He is here in this place tonight. Jesus, you're worthy. You're worthy, Jesus. You're worthy, Jesus. And we pour it out on you tonight, Jesus. You're worthy, worthy, worthy.
You make my soul alive.
morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us here at Cross River Church. This morning, as you can tell, we're not Joey Hip, but I just wanted to introduce myself if any of you do not know me, because I know you guys are watching from all around the country, because that's amazing. We just love it. My name is Penny Hip, and yes, I am Joey Hip's wife, and I am Chelsea's mama and Cherie's mama, and I'm a Nene. I just love being a Nene. But thank you for joining us this morning. But today we got something very special because it's Mother's Day. It's Mother's Day, and that is really my favorite day of the year is Mother's Day because I love being a mama. And they need to change it to Mama's Day because everybody's a mama, right? Well, I have both of my daughters here. I got Cherie, she's my oldest. And this is my youngest daughter, Chelsea. And you know, these two girls, they were raised by the same parents, but they are so opposite. They're totally different. Cherie's my oldest, and she's just this, always, when she was little, she was always, just had to have things just so perfect. And she wanted the puff sleeves, and she wanted the big bows in her hair. And she was just my little prissy press, Then 7 years later, here comes Chelsea. Here's my little 60s child. She didn't want puff sleeves. She didn't want bows in her hair. She wanted her hair slicked back in a ponytail. How many of you mamas can relate to me today? They're raised by the same parent, but they're totally different. So to raise Cherie was so much different of raising Chelsea. So I want them to join in with me today because they both have become mamas, and they made me a Nene, and that's the most special thing in the world. Yes, a Nene is better than a mama in my eyes. So I want them to kind of share because they have become amazing women of God, and that makes me as a mama so stinking proud that Cherie is a mama, and I'll let her explain to you and tell you about her mamahood. But I want to ask you girls a question, and we're just going to go back and forth. Can we just be real this morning? And we got our coffee. I know it seems early unless you're watching the replay, but it's early Sunday morning. We all have our coffee this morning, and we're just going to be real. We just wanted to invite you into our living room a little bit and just talk about motherhood. Maybe the joys of motherhood first, and then we're going to talk about the struggles, especially during this time of this COVID virus thing. The kids are home. Life is turned upside down, girls. It's turned upside down for everybody. Everybody's affected by this. So, Cherie, I'm going to start with you since you're the oldest. Is that okay, Chelsea? We're going to start with Cherie.
Sure,
why not? Chelsea said, save the best for last.
That's right. Everybody knows I'm the favorite anyway.
So we're going to start with Cherie. Let's just kind of talk about the joys of motherhood because you got them from, and I'll let you tell that, okay?
Well, I'm Cherie, and I've been married for almost 14 years. May 12th is our 14-year anniversary. So we started having kids, right away. We were only married 3 months, and I found out I was pregnant with my oldest. So I have a 13-year-old now. We celebrated our 1-year anniversary when he was 2 weeks old.
And I told her, this baby better not be premature.
So he was on time. He was a healthy 9 pounds. But so I have a 13-year-old. Then I have an 11-year-old. And then Olivia, she's the caboose and the only girl. And she'll be 7 soon. So, we kind of had them close together. But we waited a little while before we had Olivia because Brody, God love him. He is the epitome of a middle child. He's everything that you would think he would be. So, but he's wonderful. Love being a mom. That was my life goal was to be a wife and a mother. And I've enjoyed every minute of it. Of course, there are trials and there's hardships, especially right now. You think when they're newborns, you're like, oh, if I can just get past this phase where I can sleep a little bit. And then they become toddlers and they're into everything. You're like, oh, if I can just get past that phase of them getting in and wrecking my house. And then you kind of have a lull and you're like, man, this parenthood thing's getting easier. Then you hit teenage years. And let me just say, I would trade it and I would go all the way back to when he was a newborn, waking up every couple hours to what we've been dealing with. But, there's always, every stage brings joy, but also brings, hardship. It seems a little easier now because I don't have to pack diaper bags anymore. All my kids are potty trained. They can feed themselves. They can cook their own food. They clean their rooms. So it's easier in that aspect. But then you start facing, new challenges of friendships. Are they developing the right friendships at school? Or bad influences coming into their life. And then they start cussing. And you're like, where did you learn that word? They're saying bad words. And then you got to monitor, all the technology because there's so much more technology than when I was a kid. We had basic, 3, 5, 10, 15, and Channel 21, which was TBN,
That's true.
That's like all you had. And there was no cell phones. There were no computers or internet. And now, they have access to everything. And so we have to make sure, everything's locked up at night. All phones, iPads, computers, everything has to be turned in by a certain time because they're hitting that age where they're curious and they start looking at things they're not supposed to be looking at or watching videos. And I'm sure a lot of you parents out there are dealing with that. You have TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all the social media, and you got texting. And so it just becomes literally a nightmare because you think that you have conquered one area and some new app pops up or some new something comes to fruition. You're like, oh my gosh, this is something else I have to worry about. I just wish they were newborns again. And my biggest worry was if they were going to sleep, or if they were eating right. So, with every new stage comes new responsibility and new challenges, but also new joys because, especially with Olivia, she's the baby. So I've kind of not wanting her to grow up as fast because I knew this was the end. I'll never experience having a newborn again. I'll never experience changing a diaper or losing the first tooth again like she's the last. So, but as much as I hate seeing her grow up, it's also a joy to be able to just sit and talk with her and have conversations with her. She's like a little adult now. And so that's even though it's a challenge of my children growing up, there's also the joy of them becoming your friend and having just a normal conversation with them and share life with them. So that's probably joys and struggles all in one.
Right. And to tag on to that a little bit with Shree, I remember when she was just a little girl. And when you have your first one, of course, you're stricter on your first one. And they grow up faster. It seems like maturity-wise, they grow up a little bit faster. And I had almost 7 years, and she was an only child, and I thought, okay, this is it. Well, we traveled all over the country, and me and Joey were talking about it the other day. Shree was kind of like a movie star. Because every night, she got up in our revivals and she would sing and she would preach and she would pray over people. And it was just amazing. And people would come from all over the country just to see this little girl that's this tall, preach and sing and prophesy. So she was like a little...
Still that tall.
She's still that tall. But they would just come from all over just to see her. And I remember the little children would walk up to her and they would just want to touch her. I said, oh my God, she's like this star. So she was raised so much different. And we had to treat her different and raise her different because of the way our lifestyle was. It was just different. It was really different because we traveled every week somewhere. We would stay gone for months at a time and lived in a motorhome. And so, and a lot of people would ask me, do you ever have to discipline her? I said, Well, yeah, because she's very strong-willed. I mean, and sometimes, and when they get little and they're like a star almost, you have to kind of bring them down to reality every now and then, And so she'd say, I'm a star, because she was Miss Press, And so, and then she got to be a teenager, and then we came off the road because that's when Chelsea came along 7 years later. And so after Chelsea came along, we traveled for a year or so after that. But then all of a sudden, this puberty thing started happening with Shree, and Joey was off traveling, and he would come home he would just come home on during the week. And I remember the very first time that I ever saw this streak of rebellion in Shree, she was 10. And she was going to school at that time and, of course, learning things, and we were a little scared about that or a little concerned about sending her to school because of the way she lived the first, 6 or 7 years of her life was so sheltered, and all she knew was church, And so we were a little concerned about sending her to school. We sent her to school where she learned, and back then it was this thing, talk to the hand. All the kids, I don't know if you know that, but back then, it was years and years ago, it's if you didn't want to know, if you didn't want somebody talking to you and you were like upset at them, they go, talk to the hand, Well, Joey came home one day, and so he goes, Shree, come here, baby, daddy's home. And normally she would have ran and gotten to his lap, and she was so excited because dad's home. Well, that day, she was not having a very good day. And she looked at him, she went, talk to the hand. Well, he didn't know what that meant. He looked at me and said, what does that mean? I said, well, in our terms, it means I don't want to talk to you. Shut up. Leave me alone. He went, oh, no, she didn't. Well, they had a revival. They had a revival that day with the belt. And anyway, so we got through that 10-year stage, and then the teenage years hit, and it was good from then on. And so we had Chelsea. So Chelsea's going to tell you a little bit about her story, and because hers is totally different from Shree's story.
Hey, so as my mom said, I am 7 years younger than Shree. A lot of people don't realize that. I think just because we're so close now. And I'm so thankful for that because she went before me and she had kids before I did. And so it was a friend, but also my sister that I knew I could always ask questions. Stop, you're going to make me cry. I could always ask questions and talk to and lean on for support and advice because she had been there. But my uniqueness, me and Danny have been married for 4.5 years now. But I married into a family, and so we're a blended family, and I have 2 amazing stepsons, but they're 19, 17, and then we have Taylor Mack, who will be 3 next month. So we have quite a spread, and so, it was different, but I love every moment of it because, we dated for 3.5, almost 4 years before we got married. So I invested that time. I put in the effort with Trey and Tanner to have that good relationship. And I made it a priority. And because I wasn't just marrying Danny. I was also marrying them too in a way. And so I took on that responsibility. And yes, they have an amazing mom. And I would never begin to take that place. But I'm also their stepmom. And so I knew that it was important to put in that work and build a strong relationship that they know that they can trust me and they can come to me and they can talk to me about things they may not feel comfortable talking to their mom or their dad about. And so that was important. And then we had Taylor, and he'll be 3 next month, and that completely blows my mind. Because I feel like I literally just had him, and I love every moment of it, and I love being a mom. I love being a stepmom, and I love the relationship as a family that we have. I was there for the early teenage, like 12 and 13 with Trey and Tanner. I was there before it, I was there during it, I was there after it. And it's like, what just happened to you?
Something has entered your body.
Yes, I don't know you anymore. And then it's like, once they hit 13, they're golden. And you're like, oh, there you are. I missed you for a whole year. but they're amazing. But you do wonder. I mean, they live in Tennessee, and we're here in Mobile, and it's like you do wonder who are their friends. Okay? I know they're seeing some girl. Who is she? What's her name? What's her parents do? What's her morals? Does she love Jesus? Not does she go to church? Does she love Jesus?
Right.
And you wonder. And Danny's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, you need to ask questions. You need to. And he's like, well, I'm sure they're good. I'm like, no, they are not good. Like, and I pray for them like they're my own. And I know it drives them nuts, but when we see them and I talk to them like, hey, I'm like, so tell me about this girl. And I mean, they're 19 and 17, and sometimes they open up great, sometimes they don't, but they know what they say to me is between us. But you do worry. But then my concerns with Taylor Mike is totally different. Right now, we are in the why phase.
Why?
Why? Like, well, I got to go do this. But why? Because I have to do it. But why? Because I have to do I told him yesterday, I said, we got to call Nene, so I need you to be quiet. Why? Because I have to ask her a question. Why? Because I have to ask her a question. Why? Because I have to ask her this. But why? I'm like, why do you think I have to call Nene? I don't know how else to explain. And so it's so frustrating. And I know you mamas that you may be used to working and you're not working right now, or even dads. Like maybe the mom stays home and you're used to going off to work and you can't work, or you're working from home and you're like, these kids, why do they talk so much?
Do you talk this much at school?
I know you don't talk this much at school. And so, I mean, it's hard. It's hard. But with every, as Sherry was saying, with every stage, there's a different struggle, but there's a different joy. Yes. I mean, just yesterday, Taylor Mack wanted me to hold him, and he just rubbed his face against my face, and he said, miss you, Ma. Love you whole much. And I'm just like, what do you want? Like, my heart just completely melts. Like, I just want to cry, because he's all boy, and he just goes. And so there's these amazing small moments of incredible joy. But then you also have the struggles of if you ask me why one more time, I'm going to go lock myself in a closet. I can't hear you. I can't handle the why anymore. Or just the pushing the boundaries, So it's good, but there's struggle. There's definitely struggles of motherhood. And sometimes it's very hard.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I was actually telling Chelsea the other day, I called her and we were talking, and I said, being a mother is the most rewarding job, but it's also the most thankless job. We pour our life into our children and our family, and we give and give and give, and at the end of the day, sometimes you just lay in bed and you think, gosh, I totally failed as a mom today. I yelled at my kids when I should have been more patient, or I didn't spend enough time with them because I was so busy, cleaning the house and doing things. I know sometimes I get so caught up in keeping the house clean and cooking dinner, and they come up to me and they're like, Mom, and I'm like, what? And they look at me like, I'm sorry, I just had a question. And you're like, no, I'm sorry, Right. And I think we all face those moments as mamas where we feel like a failure and we feel like we're not good enough. I went through a season where I homeschooled the kids for 3 years, and they actually just went back to school this year. And
now they're back.
And now they're back home. I'm like, I am destined to homeschool these kids, whether I want to or not. But, there were days that I am not the most patient person. I'm really not. So when God called me to homeschool, I was like, I don't think so, and I was talking to my friend about it, and she said, you know what? You teach your children everything from the time they're born. You teach them how to eat. You teach them how to hold their bottle. You teach them how to walk. You teach them how to crawl. You teach them how to tie their shoes. And then all of a sudden, you send them off to school to learn. She said, you are just as capable to teach them as anybody else. And you know what? I have found that when God calls you to do something, his grace is so sufficient.
Yes.
And he is faithful. And, you know, by homeschooling them, I learned so much about myself. I became a more patient, loving person. But in those moments of homeschooling them and spending literally 24 hours a day with my kids, like I did not have a break. And I would lay in bed, and sometimes I would just cry because I had thrown the eraser at Brody because he wouldn't stop talking.
Brody.
Poor Brody.
There were just moments I would yell at them. But you know what, mamas, you're not a failure. You are more than enough for your kids. The coolest thing I read years ago was God put inside you everything your child needs.
That's right.
Before they were even born. Like God destined you to be their mother. So you're not a failure. You are not less than what they need. Everything they need, God has already placed inside of you. He has equipped you. He has called you for this time. So just step into that. Like, I think that's one of the greatest things that I've learned as being a mom is even though it's so hard and there are days that I want to give up and I just want to just send them away, God is faithful and he gives me grace to keep going, and the reward is so wonderful. When you look back and you see the way, you know, you hear people tell you, oh my gosh, your child is so polite, or oh, your child is so caring and loving. That's a reflection of you.
Right.
You know, they may not act like that at home, but as you send them out and they go to school and you hear these good reports from their teachers or from parents, you know, of other children that they play with, it's like, oh, I'm not a failure. I
That's
did
it.
do okay.
That's it.
You know, so it not only is it, you know, challenging, but it's also very rewarding.
It sure is. And, you know, as a mama sitting here today, you know, of course, there were so many times that I look back thinking, oh, maybe I was a little bit too hard, or maybe I spanked her when I shouldn't have spanked her. Maybe I should have just turned my head and, you know, and just maybe ignored that one. But, you know, but then I'm sitting here today and I'm looking at my two amazing daughters. I mean, and they make me so proud because they're good mamas. And they love Jesus. They're teaching their children how to love Jesus. And then I look at my grandchildren. I got 6 amazing grandchildren. And the way they're raising them, oh my gosh, it's an honor and a privilege for me and Joey to actually say, come and spend 4 or 5 days with us. It doesn't matter. Like right now, Livy's with us. And we got her last night. And she said, well, Nene, how long can I stay? And you know what? Because she's so sweet and she's so pleasant to be around and no trouble at all. And that's the stage of life that we're in. We don't have to discipline. We can just love them. And all of my grandkids come one at a time. We let them come one at a time so we can have that special one-on-one time with them. And she said, like last night, she says, Nene, how long can I stay? I said, baby, you can stay as long as you want to. So that's the stage of life that I'm in now. Because my daughters, me and Joey got to raise our daughters, and they love the Lord, and they're good mamas. And, you know, sure, maybe they'll do everything right, which none of us do. None of us do everything right. We have regrets of how we could have done it. But I'm proud. I raised these 2 women right here, you know, and I'm glad that they're the women of God that they are. And me and Joey could not be even more proud than our daughters. And they've married 2 amazing men that take very good care of them and gave us these amazing grandbabies. I love that part of it, you know. And then like Braden and Brody, I mean, they're amazing, you know, and they don't show out in front of us. They don't act ugly or whatever. They may do it at home, but they just don't. They're perfect.
Did you give them anything they want?
That's exactly right. I mean, they're perfect little angels when they come to my house, you know, whatever. And then in Taylor Mack, I love my T-Mac. He calls me Nene. And he'll FaceTime me sometimes, and he'll just kiss the phone. Like during this time of the COVID, I mean, I didn't get to see him for almost a whole month. And, yes, it was, 2 days, and it would have been a whole month. I hadn't seen him. And he got the phone the other day, and he kept looking at the phone. He'd kiss it. And he said, Nene, see you tomorrow? See you tomorrow? And I thought, tomorrow will never come. Come on, let's let tomorrow come. So I'm at a different stage of life now than I was whenever my babies were born and became teenagers. Now my children are adults, and they have their own children, and and I'm a Nene now, and so that's the different stage of life that we're in, and we just love it. But you know what? I don't know what stage of life you're in right now. You could be the brand new mama that just had a baby, and your hormones are going crazy, and you're thinking, oh my God, how am I going to raise this baby? But, you may be a single mama and saying, how am I going to raise this baby by myself? But you know what? Like Sheree said, by the grace of God, He's given you everything that you need to raise that baby. Everything that you need. Everything. But then you may have the toddler stage and think, oh my God, this baby, if he asks me why one more time, I'm going to shoot myself or whatever. But God's given you that grace because that baby's asking that why because he wants to know why. They're just curious. They're learning. They're in that learning stage. And then the 10-year-old or the 13-year-old that she has now. There's stages of life that you may be in right now, but God's given you the grace. He's given you everything you need to be because He wouldn't have given you those children if you hadn't been a good mama. Everybody can be a good mama. Just have the patience. But Mother's Day is my special day. It's my favorite day. I still have my mama. And I thank God my mom's healthy. And, I love it because I have my mama here on earth. And I said, I am not, and every Mother's Day I end up crying over something. Either I read a poem, I read something, I end up crying. But you know what? I want you to look at your children. If your children are sitting around you right now, I want you to look at the gift that God's given you. Because our children are truly a gift from God. Even if they feel like they're hellions, whatever. But our children are truly a gift from God.
And I just want to encourage you that no matter what stage your children are at, whether you're mama and daddy, or if you're a dad and you're mama because your children don't have a mom in their lives, no matter what your home situation is, just as God's grace is sufficient, your children show grace. And we're human, and we make mistakes. And there are almost daily, I find myself needing to apologize to Taylor, of snapping at him, because I get so caught up in what I'm doing that he's asking me something, or he needs something, or he's asked me why for the gazillionth time, and I'm like, just hold on, just give me a minute, and I find myself snapping at him because I'm human, and you're human, and you need to give yourself that grace of, okay, I'm sorry, you're not too big to apologize to your child, and I promise you, their grace and their love is bigger than you will ever realize. And they know that even if you snap, if you're flawed, because you are, they know that you love them. You're their mama. And you will always love them, just like Jesus always loves you. So don't be too big or too proud to admit that you were wrong and you snapped, and to apologize. And I guarantee you, your child will wrap you in their arms and they will love you. And they will say, Mama, I love you. It's okay. Because they will, just as Jesus loves you. And if you do something wrong, you say, God, I'm sorry. I promise you, He'll wrap you in His arms and say, I love you. It's okay. And being a mother can be so hard and so tiring. But I promise you, they love you and they know that you love them more than anything in this world. And it's okay. So know that God's grace is sufficient, but your child's grace is sufficient as well.
That was so good, Chelsea. I'm so glad she shared that. Yeah. I just want to thank Sheree and Chelsea for joining today and putting in their amazing wisdom, as different moms. But you know what? We want to pray for you today. and say Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers. And I want to say a quick prayer over you guys real quick. Jesus, I just thank you so much for every person that's tuned in today, whether they're watching it live or whether they're watching the replay on a different day. I'm asking you to bless every mother. And I know, God, that we feel like that we're not thanked enough, and we feel worthless at times, and we feel like we do fail. But Lord, I ask you just to wrap your arms around that mama today and show her your love and say, you know what? You're a good mama. And I want you to do something for me. Go look in the mirror as soon as this is over, and look in the mirror at yourself and say, you are a good mama. And say it until you believe it. And Lord, I thank you for each mama this morning. I thank you so much. This is a special Mother's Day. Even though we can't get together and we can't get in a building and we can't touch one another, but we can touch through the airways right now. And you can wrap your arms around them and show them your love and let them know that they're appreciated. And I thank you, Lord, that we're all here, we're well, we're safe. In Jesus' name. Thanks, guys, for joining us this morning. Oh my gosh, I think we went over our time a little bit. We will not tell Pastor Joey, right? This is our secret. He does not know we went over maybe 5 minutes. But anyway, thanks for joining us this morning. You go and have a blessed day.
Hey guys, we just want to continue worshiping in our giving. I know with everything going on right now, things are tight, things are tough. I get it. I'm a hairdresser. I've been out of work for 6 weeks. And so I understand that finances are difficult and your options are, how am I even going to pay my bills, much less my tithe? I understand, but I'm telling you, if you will trust God, if you will just continue to hang on, if you will be faithful in your giving, I promise you that He will be faithful to you and He will take care of everything that you need. I've been out of work for 6 weeks, but we have not missed a payment. We've been on time. God's been faithful. New things have come up and happened, and God's been there every step of the way. So I understand things are very difficult right now, but if you'll just hang on and you'll continue to trust and you'll continue to be faithful and know that He is your Father and He loves you more than anything you can ever begin to imagine. Imagine how much you love your children and how if they needed something, if they were struggling, they truly needed something, how you would give anything in the world to make sure that it happened for them and their needs were taken care of and they were met. How much more would our Heavenly Father make sure that all of our needs were met and then some? So if you'll just hold on, continue to be faithful in your giving, make sure you're tithing. I promise you, God will be faithful to you as you're faithful to Him. There are 4 ways to give. We'll put them up on the screen. The fastest probably is going to be the text to give. You can also give online. You can mail in your tithe. No matter what way you choose to give. Be faithful with a pure heart and know that God, your Father, loves you and He's taking care of you. Happy Mother's Day.